What's going on, everyone? It's Jacob from Martin's Woodworking, and in today's video I'm going to show you how we made this DIY staircase railing with metal balusters.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This project began by removing the old railing and post, then installing the new post. I don't have any footage for this, but we did install the new post the same as the old post. With the new post installed, I gave it a light sanding and then applied the pre-stain wood conditioner to help the stain absorb evenly. Once the conditioner was dry, I applied the stain. This was a special stain color to match the cabinets in the kitchen. I applied a few coats to get the desired color. I made sure to wipe off all the excess after applying a coat of stain, then I waited a while before applying another coat. Once the stain was dry, and before we get too far into this project, we want to make sure we have these little trim pieces installed around the post. Just like normal trim, this helps hide a small gap between the flooring and the post. It's important to have these in place before you begin measuring out the spacing for the balusters. We just used a nail gun to attach these pieces to the post and filled in the nail holes with some dark wood putty. Now with the trim installed, I began to measure out the location for the balusters. Make sure to be aware of building code during this process. We had 4-inch spacings on center for our railing, so the gap between the balusters was under 4 inches. Make sure to take your time and make sure your measurements on top and bottom will match up correctly before drilling holes for the balusters. With everything measured out, it's time to drill the holes for the balusters. We used a drill press because we had one available and a few extra hands to hold everything steady, but a drill would work just fine. Be sure to be consistent with your depth as you are drilling, as this could cause some unevenness in the railing. Also make sure not to drill all the way through your railing. We used a spade bit to drill these holes, but a Forstner bit would probably be the better choice, if you have that available, because a spade bit has a longer tip on it, and that could potentially cause issues getting the desired depth. With all the holes drilled, I gave everything a quick sanding, removing any pencil marks and light scratches on the railing. I made sure to double check that everything fit and lined up correctly before I started the finishing process. Once I had all the dust removed and I knew everything fit, I did the same finishing process as before. I applied the pre-stained wood conditioner, let that dry, then I applied the stain until I was happy with the results. With the stain drying, we need to cut our balusters to size. We had found a return order that had a good discount, so we decided cutting them to size ourselves was worth the money saved. How we went about cutting these was with a sawzall with a metal blade. We measured the balusters to size, made lines with a speed square, and cut as straight as possible. We used clamps to hold everything in place and an old t-shirt to avoid scratching any of the paint off the baluster. And after we cut it, we used a file to round over the sharp edges. Other tools that would work well for cutting these would be a metal chop saw or an angle grinder with a metal cutting wheel. Do not forget to apply polyurethane to everything once your stain has dried. Next, I'm moving my attention to the handrail. The handrail will be attached to the wall as well as the post. To attach the handrail to the wall, we will be attaching a block. To the handrail itself with screws. These screws will be on the side of the block that will be flat against the wall, so they will never be seen. Make sure to countersink these screws so everything will fit flush against the wall. To attach the handrail to the post, we are going to be using some L brackets that will later be spray painted black. I spaced out the L brackets and drilled some pilot holes for the screws, then attached the brackets with some black wood screws. With the handrail assembled, we did a quick dry fit to make sure everything's still lined up, and we marked out the holes for the L brackets on the post. As you can see, this install will take a lot of hands to make possible. With everything lined up, we finally attached the bottom board to the floor, placing screws every few holes. The reason for putting the screws in the holes is that they will always be hidden. Before we can place all the balusters, we need to make sure that we have the shoes on the balusters. These are just like the trim and hide the holes that we had drilled for the balusters to sit in. To hold these shoes in place, we will be using some painter's tape. You don't want these shoes to fall down while you are doing the install. To hold the balusters in place, I'm going to be using Total Boat tabletop epoxy. We don't want the balusters to spin or move once they are in place, and this was our solution. I know with doing this, it makes it almost impossible to remove the stair railing without breaking something, but this shouldn't be removed for many years, so at that point it's just going to be an entirely new design or some fun demo for someone. I filled the holes about 2/3 full with Total Boat tabletop epoxy, being careful not to drip epoxy all over the place. This epoxy, in my experience, takes around an hour before it starts to gel just a little bit and 24 hours before it cures, so having this large work window made it an obvious choice for us. Now it's time to put the balusters into place. No turning back now. We carefully worked our way from the wall towards the post. We had a lot of hands here, but honestly another set of hands would have been great too. We didn't use any kind of adhesive on the top railing. To attach the handrail to the post, I used this really handy DeWalt angle drill bit. This thing is awesome for hard to reach places when putting screws in. If you don't have one, I suggest getting one. I use mine a lot and I'll link it down below. We pushed the handrail down as hard as we could while attaching the L bracket to the post, and the same thing on the other side when attaching the block to the wall. On the wall side, I just used a nail gun to attach it while my dad made sure things were level, and we used the same dark wood putty to fill the nail holes. And now that everything is finally attached, I will leave the shoes taped up and give the epoxy its full 24 hours to cure. The next day, with the epoxy cured, I can now remove all the tape and slide the shoes down. And I will attach the shoes with an Allen wrench. We made sure to have all the inset screws facing the same direction when we installed the balusters so that everything would look uniform. With the shoes tightened, this project is complete. Let's take it back to where we started at the beginning of this video. A pretty cool transformation in my opinion. I think the stair railing fits the aesthetics of the house perfectly, but it also doesn't steal all the attention. I know my parents are very happy with the results. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll queue up some other videos for you to enjoy. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with all the projects I do.